Everyone, it's Liam here from Rating the Races. So, as with generally happens after big meetings, festivals such as Glorious Goodwood or whatever it's called now, the Qatar Racing Festival, I think, um, Royal Ascot, Cheltenham Festival, there's generally quite a few horses that catch my eye in terms of their handicap marks because the handicap is really lenient. I think he looks at it and go, well, they've missed their chance, so I'm going to drop this one, I'm going to drop that one. And also the big fields, when you get 30 runner fields, you can finish fifth and get dropped a pound. Whereas if you finish fifth in an 8 runner race, it looks bad. Whereas if you finish fifth in, say, a 30 runner race, it's probably not that bad. And the handicapper still drops them weights. One thing I would say about the handicapper, I think it's clear that he or they don't really know what they're doing. I mean, Docklands, who won at Royal Ascot, has gone up £14. We went up £10, sorry, for winning at Royal Ascot. That means he's gone up £24 in 2 runs, which demonstrates after the horse's first 3 efforts, the handicapper giving it 80 had absolutely no idea. How can you go up £24 in 2 subsequent runs? It's not like Docklands had even been disguised, held up out the back. He finished second twice and then won on his third start. A maiden at Kempton. But anyway, little mini rant over. Let's have a look at what caught my eye this week. So we start off with a horse who we highlighted last week to run a big race at Redcar. Was the outside of the field at the time, and a great result for us. Was a winner. Now we've obviously highlighted Crypton a few times. We think he's well handicapped, and I think he dropped to a mark that he really should have been competitive off. And he was, and he won nicely at Redcar, making pretty much most of the running. Over on that far side as well, there was definitely a bias as well being over on that rail. Now, I highlighted him because he had to win, basically. He had to win if he was going to return to the Bunbury Cup. He was 6th in it last year off a mark of 100, only beaten 3 lengths. And actually, if you take out the winner, he was only a length and a half behind the second placed horse. That came off a mark of 100. He's still only, after winning, back up to 94, which I think is really eye-catching. A £6 lower mark. If you turned up off a £6 lower mark, you would think you would have a chance. And the fact you're turning up off a £6 lower mark with a win under your belt as well, so it's not like you're turning up bang out of form, you've dropped a long way in the ratings, and you might have lost it. He's demonstrated by winning that he's back to showing a bit of form, and yeah, I think it'd be very, very interesting, that Bunbury Cup. Let me just have a quick check to see if there's any prices for that. Let's have a look. When is it? Bunbury Cup. There are prices for the Bunbury Cup, and you can get, what's it called? 25 to 1 about Crypton. Let me just throw that over here. You can get 25 to 1 about Crypton, and you know what? I think he turns up, and I think he goes really well. The horses in front of him that day were impressive, or improvers. We had the unexposed Montasib, who's now higher rated. We had the unexposed Attorney, who's now higher rated. We had the always unlucky Jumbie, but who has now won a group race. And Bless Him, who we'll actually speak about later on in this video. Yeah, I think Crypton will run a big race, and at 25s, he's probably a decent price anti-post for this. I might end up having 2 bets in this race now. When is it? It is the 15th of July, so it's not that long to wait. If you don't like getting your money tied up for long periods of time, I think both of these that I'm going to talk about will turn up, and I think they'll both run really big races. Second horse I want to talk about is Law of the Sea, who, for me, considering they had dropped him back to 2 miles at Haydock, and he'd shown that he probably wasn't quick enough for 2.5, they then stepped him up to 2 miles. Sorry, they then stepped him up to 2.5 at Royal Ascot, which was probably going to test him anyway. Plus, the uphill finish always finds out a lot of horses. For me, they were too prominent. I thought David was too prominent and kicked for home too soon. I think if he'd been weighted with a little bit, I think he would have gone really close. Now, he's only up a pound for that, and he wasn't beaten far in fourth. You know, he was beaten 3 lengths by a horse with no name, calling the win, Tritonic. You know, proper good stayers. They've all got plenty of ability. I just think he didn't need to be kicking for home so soon. Ridden to lead 2 furlongs out. He was actually turning into the straight. David started to get going. I think if he'd delayed his challenge, I honestly believe he would have. I think he would have won the race personally. But anyway, he's a horse that I'm definitely interested in going forward still. He is actually in on Saturday at Newcastle for the Northumberland Plate. I just wonder whether that might be a bit too short for him, and he might find that they go a bit quick and he gets caught for toe. He is, David has been provisionally booked, so I do think they will be running. If that doesn't work, I hope they kind of target, I haven't put up what race I hope they target. I hope they target the Watergate Cup. Now, the Watergate Cup is a race at Chester, over the Chester over the Chester Cup trip. I couldn't think what the name was called. Chester Plate. I'm like, that's the B version. What's the name of the race? Over the Chester Cup trip. It's 51 grand for the winner. I hope kind of that's where they target after Saturday if they do run in the Northumberland Plate. If it doesn't work, give him some time off. Come back for the Chester race. The Watergate Cup, and then look at the Cesarewitch as well. They would be what I'd be doing with Law of the Sea. I think he's well handicapped, and I think he'll want this 2 mile 2, 2 mile 3 trip to really be at his best. The next horse I want to talk about actually came from the same race, and that's Tritonic. Now, I thought he ran a really good race, and if you've been following my videos, you'll know that I'm a big fan of Tritonic, particularly at Ascot. And it's kind of, that's the race I want him to be targeted over hurdles. The race that he won a few years ago, the Bet for Exchange Trophy. I'm hoping that's where they go again when he's back over hurdles. But in the meantime, on the flat, there's an obvious one for him. It's this Stayers Handicap at the Dubai Duty Free Shergar Cup. It's decent prize money. He's currently rated. Tritonic is currently rated 101. That's interesting. That means he doesn't get in this. Okay. They might need to find a race before that to get him dropped a pound, because this is where I definitely want to see him. Rated 101 arguably means he's just out. Well, it does mean he's just out of this. So it'd be interesting to see if they get a run into him in July, potentially at a track that doesn't suit him with this race in mind. But I do like him if he comes back to Ascot. The next horse I want to talk about Alligator Alley. So, you know I'm a big fan of Alligator Alley, and I thought he was given a bit better ride last time. Finally getting a better ride. I think he actually bumped into 2 well handicapped horses in Bond Chairman and Mondamage. Now, Mondamage had come down the weights, you know, previously as high as 104, down to 96. Hadn't run badly against Chipstead 2 runs before that, nor the time before that at York when 4th behind regional. You know, he's not been out of form, and then ran a really good race at Doncaster. They were both beaten by Bond Chairman, who had previously last season finished 4th in the Palace of Holyrood at Royal Ascot, then 2nd in a Heritage Handicap at Ascot, 4th in a Gerard Handicap, before probably running his poorer runs towards the end of the season. He bounced back on his return, winning by a nose, I think it was, at Doncaster. Alligator Alley ran well for a long way against them and pushed them all the way to probably the last 100 yards, and then just got tired. With that in mind, and with the handicapper being very kind and dropping him another pound, he's got to go for that Ascot race. Is it this one? It is this one. It's this Coral. I think they've changed the name of it. They have. There's a new sponsor. It used to be called the Nicholson Gin Handicap. It's now called the Coral Handicap Stakes. It's 5 furlongs. He's got to go there. Alligator Alley's been to Goodwood once. He finished second, beaten a length by Liberty Beach. You know, Liberty Beach is a 109 rated horse. I think Alligator Alley for that Coral Handicap Stakes now, as it's called, at Goodwood, is where I would be targeting him. Moving on to All Right Sunshine, who finished last of 16 at Ascot, and the handicapper accordingly dropped him £1. I don't get it. I think the handicapper just makes it up sometimes. Anyway, so he's dropped him £1. That was actually All Right Sunshine's return for the season. He hadn't had a run all season. He was having his first run in 7 months, and he was up there with the pace, just behind Vauban, and then dropped away. He's clearly not good enough for that type of class of race, but the class of race that he is good enough is this one here, the Bell Ringer. It's for horses rated 0 to 100. He would get in off 100. He won this race last year. It's not that long to wait. It is, let me have a look. It's the 22nd of July, so about 25 days from today. I mean, that's an obvious one for him, isn't it? And if he goes there, he only went off 9 to 2 last year. I think you actually get a better price for him this year because he disappointed at Ascot. But with that run under his belt, I think he'll go really close in what is generally a much easier race at Ripon, because none of the big trainers really want to turn up there. I know Saib and Saror did last year, but you can see there's no John Gosden, there's no Charlie Appleby, there's no Aidan O'Brien, there's definitely no Willie Mullins. It's a race that I think Keith Dalglish can definitely go with All Right Sunshine and try and win it again. So the next one I want to talk about is Bless Him, who I thought ran a really good race for 5th in the Royal Hunt Cup. Did nothing wrong, came through the middle as he always does. Because they weren't all bunched, I kind of think it affects Bless Him. I think he really likes all of the horses to be in the way and run on through them. So he dropped £1 for that effort, for finishing 5th. So All Right Sunshine in the previous race finished 32 lengths behind the winner at 100 to 1, dropped £1. Bless Him at 40 to 1, beaten 4.5 lengths by Jimi Hendrix, dropped £1. Why they both dropped £1, I don't get that. But anyway, so that means Bless Him is now down to a mark of 102. Well, there's an obvious one for him, isn't there? He's got to go back to the Bunbury Cup as well. He won it off 101. He'd be £1 higher, and he is currently right near the top. He's 14s, okay? He won it last year, but he actually won it quite cosily. It's not like he got there on the line. He won it by a length and a quarter under Jamie Spencer. If he'd been carrying 102 last year, he would have still won it. So I think he's actually a really good price at 14s for this race. And I think both him and Crypton can both run really big races in there. In the Bunbury Cup. It's a race that they'll surely go for. It's 60 grand for the winner. Obviously, they know Bless Him likes it there. He's won there before. So, yeah, I think both of those at 14s and 25s. Where is he? He's down a bit. Here he is. 25s. I think they're both good prices for the Bunbury Cup. Moving on to the next one, and I've just lost my tab as to where I was. We will talk about Isla Kai, who has dropped £1 to 93. He's another one that there's a race that looks ready-made for him. So last year he came from finishing 6th in the Royal Hunt Cup to finishing 4th in a John Smith's handicap at York. You can see here, behind Eileen Doob, Blue For You and Blenheim Boy. Now that day at York he was running off 98. Well, he could run here this year off 93, so a £5 lower mark. He wasn't beaten far, he was beaten 2.25 lengths in total. He has some good York form. He went back there for the Autumn Mile when finishing 3rd. He's also finished 2nd to Rifleman there. It's a course that he does generally run well at. And with that in mind, and with that race there for him, surely this is where Isla Kai goes back off a £5 lower mark. I think he's very interesting. Look, he went off the 2 to 1 favourite. Surely he goes back there, and he's one to keep an eye out for. But then move on to Kanja. Now Kanja really disappointed in the Wokingham Stakes, finishing mid-div 13th, 13th for 27s, pretty much right in the middle. He was only beaten 5 lengths though, to be fair. I know it was only 6 furlongs, so 5 lengths over 6 furlongs feels like a long way. But I just think he never had things go his way, and he didn't really get racing. And I'm kind of keen to forgive him that run. And the handicap has dropped him down another pound. He was due to go up to 99. He's dropped him back down to 98. I think he could be one that they target at the Stewards Cup. Shadwell Estate have only ever had, or they've only had one runner in the recent years in the Stewards Cup, and it was Cardham who won the Stewards Cup. And I think Kanja could be one he's kind of, I think they think he's a lot better than he is, or they think he's better than what he's shown, in the fact that he went off 5-4 2 runs ago for a handicap when beaten, but that came after finishing 12th in a handicap. And then last time out, he only went off 11s at Royal Ascot in the Wokingham. I think they know he's better than his mark, and I think he'll be running in listed and group races towards the end of the season. And with that in mind, if they do target the Stewards Cup with him, it's great prize money. I think they'll get the race run to suit, and if they do all stay together, he can be picking his way through rather than running through open spaces, which is kind of what he did at Royal Ascot. We'll keep going. I think we're about halfway. The next one I want to talk about is Lethal Levi, who is another one that kind of disappointed in the Wokingham. Finished 15th, went off 20-1. I think there's an obvious race for him, and that is back for the Sky Bet Dash over 6 furlongs at York. Last time out was probably his best bit of form in a recent was his best bit of form. Recently, when second, beaten by Bielsa. Now, we were on Bielsa that day, so I always like the form when we get it right. And Lethal Levi showed that he was still in good form when running a good second. His previous effort before that at York was also a good effort, when not beaten that far, when 6th behind Summergand at York. Obviously, Summergand was on his way to running lots of good races after that. So I'm very interested in Lethal Levi if he runs in that Sky Bet Dash off his now mark of 99, having dropped a pound for his run at Royal Ascot. So the next horse I want to talk about is one that I'm really, really keen on, and that's Ouzo. Ouzo is very consistent, to be fair to him, in generally big handicaps. 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 6th, 2nd, 7th, 7th, 8th, 5th, 4th. Where do I think he'll go? Well, it's obvious, isn't it? Surely he's going to go to Sandown. For this race, the Coral Challenge Handicap. We'd highlighted Sinjari quite a bit before, said he was one of our Royal Ascot eye catchers, ran a really good race, and then went to the Coral Challenge and won. Check and Challenge went off the 11-4 second favourite. They thought he was well ahead of his mark that day, and he ran fine as well. Now, Ouzo was unlucky because he didn't get a clear run that day, and if he did, I think he would have challenged them, to be fair, at the front. Well, he did challenge them anyway. He wasn't beaten far at all. Off his current mark, which is 94, the same mark that he ran off last year, albeit Safi was able to claim £3 that day. If he ran off it again and ran a similar race, I think he would take all the beating. He's going to have to find some really well handicapped horses to beat him. And that race at Sandown is surely where he ends up. It is on Saturday the 8th of July, so very soon, not this Saturday, but the Saturday after. And he's one that I definitely think you need to keep in your... put him in your RTO Nagmi for sure. On to Totally Charming, who has dropped a pound to 100. Why do I like him? I don't really like him for now. He was 20th of 29 in the Buckingham Palace Stakes. Slowly away, never got involved. And he kind of does that. Never really gets involved. But I think he just wants a bit of cut in the ground. And with that in mind, that's kind of why I'd be waiting now for Totally Charming for something like this race here, the National Racehorse Week Handicap, which isn't until September. but he's one that I think as soon as he gets a bit of cut in the ground, he will be able to bounce back from his efforts. You don't go off 5-1 favourite for a Victoria Cup, or 5-1 for an Irish Lincolnshire if you're not well handicapped. They were off marks of 104 and 101. So the fact that he's down now to 100, he's got to have a chance as soon as he gets a bit of cut in the ground. And I'm going to leave it there for this video, and we will create another video going through the rest of them.